Well, hey there, friends. It's Chris from the Rate the Record podcast here, and of course, it's that time of the week. It is the NMR New Music Review, which means I've listened to 3 brand new songs that have come out very recently. I have thoughts and opinions. I also want to hear your thoughts and opinions. That's what this whole musical commentary exchange thing is supposed to be, right? Well, anyways, I want to do that. I think we should jump into it. But me rolling over this way also indicates that you should do one of 2 things, or even 3 things, to really help out this channel, this show, this podcast, this everything. Like, subscribe, and commenting. Liking, subscribing, super easy to do. It's 2 buttons that you just have to click right here on this YouTube page. And comments. Down in the comments below, let me know what you think of these songs and all that kind of stuff. If you agree or disagree with me, I'll remind you of that later. That's how this whole thing works. It's free and easy to do, and also super quick. So please, one of those things, it definitely helps. Let's get started. So first up on the list today, we have the band Chameleons, and they are releasing new music for the first time in 21 years, and they actually have a new album set to be released soon, and that'll be their first in 23 years. It's called Arctic Moon, and the first song we get from it now is Where Are You? I feel like this one definitely steers more into the straightforward rock category, and it's definitely different from the more post-punk goth rock, dream pop stylings that they had in their older material, which is the stuff I'm more familiar with anyway. This has something of a 90s alt-rock vibe to it. That's kind of what I'm picking up on here. Now, I have a tendency with these quote-unquote legacy bands where I notice the trend that their newer material goes a little flat, and if you've listened to any of my NMRs over the past few months when I've gone into these legacy bands, the reviews have always been the same all around, and as much as I enjoy Chameleons' earlier, I should say, work in their discography, I'm kind of feeling that flatness with this one. It's nice that the vocal tone and the warmth of the overall production is still here and present like in the older tracks that I do remember, but it just feels a little lackluster in the end, like there is definitely something kind of missing here. I mean, don't get me wrong, it's still bouncy and energetic, so that part of it is still good, but it kind of lacks the charm that they used to have in their music. I do like the airier parts in the middle of the song too, I will say that, and it kind of continues on into the end of the song as well. It's a bit dreamier of a tone while the life is still pretty high overall with the kind of marching progression of the drums. Overall, it's not that bad as compared to the other legacy stuff that I've had to do in the past. It's still pretty predictable in the end, and it just feels like a typical comeback rock type of track. It's still kind of fun though, so I'd say just give it a listen and maybe you'll feel differently about it. Next up on the list now is Nick Cave and the Bad Seeds, the experimental goth rock, art rock type band out of Melbourne, Australia, and they also have a new album on the way real soon called Wild God, and the very first teaser we've gotten from this album is called Frogs. I found this to be a very smooth and just flowing, atmospheric style of track. The soft multitude of layers just drifting on top of each other is actually kind of a really nice experience to be able to sit through. It almost has a cinematic type quality to it too, because you have what sounds to be an entire orchestra backing it up. It could just be a synthesizer, but it could also be very much a real orchestra behind it. You also got that choir, and it just feels really expansive, like this could fill like an entire theater or auditorium of sorts. So I dig what this has going for it so far. The song actually kind of hits a peak in the middle too, and then it just kind of rides that wave for a while, which can usually be a detriment to most tracks just because like once you've hit your peak, what else can you do beyond that point? But it honestly actually kind of works here. It's just an all-encompassing atmosphere with those old crooner style of vocals, not quite crooner, but it feels like it's like teetering on that tinge a little bit. And speaking of teetering on things too, it definitely has that David Bowie Black Star quality about it. Obviously they sound very different, and Bowie had a lot more frailty in his voice given where he was in a medical state at that point of making that album, but there's just something about this vocal presentation that I can kind of get that out of. And trust me, I love Black Star, I adore that album, so the fact that I'm making that kind of comparison, even though comparing Bowie to Nick Cave can seem a little weird, I guess, it's still fantastic. I like it. Overall, I'll say it's actually quite pleasant of a song. I didn't find too much wrong with it. I know it's not exactly as biting as some of Nick Cave's older material, but I still think that this works, and I think that you should check it out. And finally on the list today, we have Frenchy and the Punk, the dark alternative, folky, post-punk goth rock style band out of New York City. They just dropped a brand new single, and it's called Like in a Dream. As I mentioned with the genres and as it should push forward with the style, this does a really good job of sticking to that dark alternative like goth rock of the 80s that you would hear out of like a post-punk or dark wave type of thing. It's really nice to hear the way that they pulled this one off. A lot of bands kind of modernize it way too much, but this actually feels like it could have come out of the era, so I like that. The song has a very flowing and plucky progression to it. It's got super soft production with these almost Susie Sue style vocals on top of that, and I can safely say that because I did read that in 2023 they did a cover of Cities and Dust by Susie Sue and the Banshees. So the fact that this singer has that kind of quality to her voice, you can definitely see where the influence comes in, but it sounds really nice though. It's very dreamy and has like a kind of melancholic type feel to the entire thing, which again, suits the style, suits the time, suits the genre. The energy does start to pick up halfway through the track or so, but it's nothing too big or explosive, so I think it really works to an advantage here for the rest of the song moving forward and just, again, the styling of it. The vocals even hit these higher and more intense peaks as the song progresses, especially going into the last chorus as well. So it's nice to see this nice constant ascension to the entire composition and how it's pretty decent at just keeping your attention all the way through. And overall with that, I could say it's a nice little throwback track. Again, I like this style. I like that they made it sound as classic as they possibly could. There's some decent production overall on this thing. It's moody but dreamy, and I think it's actually worth checking out. And that's all I have for the new music review today, so thank you very much for joining me today and listening to these songs. And if you did indeed listen to these songs, please do me a favor, go down to the comments below and leave your comments on whether or not you like these songs, you hate these songs, you agree or disagree with me. I kind of want to have this discussion with you, so please go ahead and do that. And also, just another quick reminder, if you did like this video, hit the like button. You can subscribe to the channel too, just kind of help out a little bit, you know? There's many other ways you can help out too, and all of those ways can be found over at ratetherecord.ca. That is ratetherecord.ca. You can find all the streaming links for the podcast there, all the social media links so you can follow over there and let me know your opinions on the social media pages as well. You can buy merchandise, and of course there is ko-fi.com/ratetherecord. If you want to financially support the show, by all means, that is all there at ratetherecord.ca. Speaking of the podcast, I keep saying podcast, but these videos aren't exactly a podcast, it's just a quick review. The podcast is indeed coming back. I did make an announcement video for it this past Monday. It is out and it explains everything, that there's going to be a bit of a difference in this podcast. You can find out when it's coming back and everything, every question you might have about it, hopefully is answered in that video, so go ahead and check that out. I'm very excited that the podcast is coming back. It's been a long time coming, so just more information in that video. Please check it out. And that's all I got now. I am done speaking, so once again, thank you very much for joining me. Until I see you again, go listen to some awesome music. Take care, friends.